So now since you have a working installation of Git on your local machine, it's time to make use of it. So on Windows machine, I want you to go to the Windows Run and open a command prompt window. On Mac OS or Linux machine, just open any terminal window. First thing I want you to type is git version. So it will tell you what Git version you have on your machine. Next thing, you can always say git help -a, so it will return all the commands available for your Git window. Okay. Now, quickly, I want to show you all of these commands one by one. So let me go to my local drive, C drive, and I make a folder, say app. Inside app, as of now, I have nothing inside this folder. So I'll switch to this directory, and as you can see, this directory is empty. Right now, I want to say create a new directory. It's called project_k, and I'm going to switch to this project. Inside this project, I have no files right now. It's just an empty directory. So first thing I want to show you is git init. What this is going to do is going to initialize an empty Git directory into this folder. So let me go back to this folder. And as you can see, there's only one small Git hidden folder. Now what this folder is going to do, this is a compressed database, and it's going to record all the changes, whatever I make to this directory. Now, I want to show you quickly what happens if I add a file here. Say, sorry, this is not what I wanted. I wanted a, so I'm going to copy a text file here, say index.txt file, and I'm going to put test here, save this file, and I'm going to create another HTML file. Okay. So now if I head back to my command prompt window, and if I type, say dir, so it will tell me that there are two files inside this folder. Now, next thing I want you to do is type git status. So what git status does, let me head back to the workflow. So this is the working directory where I save all my changes. So if I type the git status, is going to tell me that there are two new files it have been just added to the working directory. And as you can see, that these files, it says untracked files. So that's why these are showing up in red color. So that means these two files are still sitting out in the working directory, and I need to stage it. So to stage this, it says I can always say git add, and I'll say index.txt. Now, if I type the git status again, it will show me that there's a new file. Remember, I only added one file to the staging area. So that's why it's saying it's been index.txt has been added, but index.html is still sitting out there and waiting to add to the staging area. So to quickly do that, I can also git add -a. So what this command is going to do is going to take all the files and put it into the staging area. Now, if I put the git status again, it's going to show me all the files in green. There's one more concept of git ignore. I'll get back to that a little later on. But for now, all of these files, these are in the staging area. So now next step is I have to do a git commit to publish it to a local repository. So let me show you that command. Git commit -m. -m means I have to put a message here, and I'm going to say first revision. Let me quickly show you what this message is. So as you can see, all the time, anytime you make a commit to your file, you have to, and it's a good practice to put some message out there. That means what are the changes you have done. So because this is an initial commit or first version, I'm just going to put first revision, or say version. Version is more appropriate. Okay. Sorry. Oops. Version. That's it. Now, if I do the git status again, it's going to show me there's nothing left. The working tree is clean. Okay, so that's pretty much it, I believe, on the Git side. I quickly want to show you a couple of more things. Sorry, I skipped this part, like how to set up your config username and user email. This is a very, very important step. And before you start working on your Git, this is the first thing you should be setting it up. So it's very simple command: git config user dot name, and I'm going to say Amit Shukla. Okay. Now, if I type git config username, is going to return my name. Okay. Next thing you want to do is I want to set up my email address as well. So user.email. Okay. And now if I hit git config user.email, it should get back my email address as well. Okay, good. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to, I'll go back to my local directory and use it. As you can see, there's only one folder called project K. Now, I'll go back to the app directory. Now I want to make a clone of an existing remote repository. So let me head back. Suppose this is the repository I like, GitHub Hello World. So I will go click on this clone or download. All I need is this path. Okay, I'm going to copy this path and I'm going to head back to my local drive. In command prompt, I'm going to type git clone and I'm just going to copy this address. So very quickly, as you can see, this just let me head back to my local share folder. As you can see, what this command did, it created a copy of that remote repository into my local repository. Okay, so as you can see, very nice, everything is out there. Okay, now let me go back to the git ignore. Okay, so what this git ignore is, before I do that, let me just cd into this directory, and I want to quickly say git status. As you can see, working tree is clean. There's nothing, no changes have been required. So what I can do, I want to quickly make some changes to this readme.md file. Okay, I can use a nice text editor, but I'm intentionally not doing it. So I made some changes to this readme.md file. Okay, and then I'm going to create a new folder. It's called, say, test folder. Okay, and inside this test folder, I'm going to grab an index.html file. Okay, and I'm going to put this file here, and inside this test.html, I'm going to put this file here, but I want to change this name, and I'll say dummy.html. Good. Now, if I go back to my terminal window and I type git status here, so please note what is going to return it to me. It's going to say there are 3 different changes. It's saying that tech readme.md file has been changed, and I know what has been changed. And it says like there are 2 new folders, like, you know, there's one folder recently has been created, test, and there's one file it have been added, is called text index.html. So git status quickly tells me it tells me what files have been added or what has been updated. Okay. Now I want to get back to this git ignore file. Let me open this with text editor. Okay. Now in this git ignore file, I'm going to put something. Say, suppose for example, this is the test folder, and I don't want this test folder from my local repository to publish to a remote repository. That means I want to ignore this folder. So that's the whole purpose of this git ignore. All I need to say here is test and save this. So what this git ignore is going to do is going to ignore everything, all the folder which is named with test. Let me just quickly show you how. So if I type the git status, is going to tell me that these are the changes. Remember, like it's saying this, now git ignore file has been changed, readme.md file has been changed, index.html file has been changed, but it completely ignored that test. Now quickly I want to make one more changes here. Okay, so for example, I want to exclude all this index.html. That means I don't want any HTML files to go. So I'll have to say like star.html, save this, and let me run the git status again, and let's see. Okay, it says, see that index.html is gone. So it's git ignore, basically it completely ignores the files and or folders you want to ignore. That means when you're going to add this to your local repository, your git is going to ignore those files. And there are like various reasons you want to do that. There are a lot of, whenever you're running a build, sometimes it creates a temp directory, or there are a lot of files, the source code files, or there are some files which you which has your database credentials. So suppose you don't want to publish those files, your environment variables, you don't want to put it in a GitHub public repository. In that case, you want to add those files inside this git ignore. So enough with that. I'm going to say git status. I'm going to say git add -a, and then if I do the git status again, is going to return all those files in green. And the last thing I want to do here is git commit -n, and I'm going to put says another message, second revision, and it's going to commit to that. Okay. Now if I go back and hit git status again, I'm pretty sure it will come back with nothing, because all the changes you made have been committed. So there are a lot of good commands you can see here. Okay, you have to experiment it yourself, unfortunately. But these are some very good handy commands. One last thing I want to show you: git log and git log summary. Okay, those are very good commands. So let me say git log. So it will return you all the changes you have been doing. So it keeps a log of all those things. So git log will return all of those logs. I entered Q to come out of that. Next thing, if you want a summarized version, all you have to do git log ---- summary. So it will again, it will give you all the summary of all the logs, all the changes you have done. Last thing I want to show you is git diff. Okay. Oh, because you have already committed all the changes, so git diff didn't come back with anything. So let me quickly go back to this directory, and let's do one more thing. I'm going to make one more change to this README file, and I'm going to say test2. Say 2. Okay, I'm going to save this. Now, if I go back to my terminal window and I say git status, it should show me one file has been changed. And if I do a git diff, it should show me exactly what has been changed. So look at this. So it's showing me, inside this working directory, readme.md file has been changed, and the changes is from I made a text change from test it shows up at test2. So these are some very handy commands you want to learn when you're working on the Git. Well, there are a lot, as I said, there are a lot of commands you have to experiment with. Okay. Now, next thing I want to show you is the GitHub Desktop. So GitHub Desktop is nothing but a simplified GUI version of what you just did. So whatever commands you did is going to this is the graphical representation of those commands. So as you see, I just made changes from on this file readme.md, and I added a text. So as you can see, it's simply GUI. Sometimes it's very, very nice to see your changes right through it. It's very hard to visualize in a terminal or command prompt window. So what this does is GUI Desktop. The GitHub Desktop is give you a very visual, nice representation of what has been changed. So same thing here. All you need to do here, I'm going to say new version, and if I click on this commit to master, so it is simply same as git commit -m, and you are typing this message git commit -m new version. Okay. So as you can see, it is making those changes to branch, and the next thing you want to do is the push origin. So if you click on this, what it's going to do is going to take my changes and publish it to this repository. I don't want to do it, but if I just click on this button, I'm pretty sure what it's going to do is going to all of those changes, like the test 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever I did, all those text changes will show up here. So Git desktop is a very nice, handy tool. It's very similar to using Git commands, but like a lot of people, they prefer the visual tool. So Git desktop, it does provide you that visual presentation of of all the Git commands. One last thing I want to show you. It's my favorite, absolute favorite. So I want you to go to the VS Code. So this is the reason I like about the VS Code. VS Code, the Git is built into this tool, Visual Studio Code. The reason I like VS Code, it gives you both. It gives you a visual presentation like a GitHub desktop, and it gives you a flexibility where you can type your own commands. So let me just show you what I mean. So before you get started on Visual Studio Code, I want to quickly show you one last thing. I'm going to quickly open one of those command windows, okay? And I want you to go to the output, okay? So as you can see, it's looking for the Git in this directory, okay? So it's searching all those directories and trying to find out where my git.exe is. To avoid doing this, or sometimes, it's very nice to set up your Visual Studio Code the right way. All you have to do, go to your VS Code settings, and inside this one, I want to say git.path equals to. So I'm going to the directory where I installed my GitHub. I'm going to copy this path, put it here. So this way, if you do this setting, VS Code will not have to search it, search for git.exe in all your computer. So as you can see, the VS Code doesn't like it because of the backslash character. It's thinking that this is a special character because it's, as you see, user of the setting is a JSON file. So let me fix that. And I think I'm missing a comma here. Okay, that's pretty much it. You need to save this. I'm going to come out of the VS Code and start it over again. Okay, so now as you see, it shouldn't complain about all those Git commands. So as I was telling you, you can use the same terminal window inside this VS Code. So it gives you a flexibility where you can make use of both the words. Like you will have a graphical presentation and as well as have you a command prompt window. So I will cd into this one. I will do a git status, and it should tell me the same thing. Now the good thing about it, let me show you. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Okay, I'm going to go to this GitHub hello world inside this readme file, and I'm going to make some more changes, say test3, and I'm going to save this. As soon as you save this, what you notice that you look at this icon, so it has come back, is saying, okay, there's one pending change. So if I click on this one, but before I click on this one, I want to show you git status. So as you see, there is one file which is not, it still is in your working directory, is not committed yet, or it is not staged yet. And if you click on this source control icon, it will tell you exactly that this file have been changed. And okay, and this is what I was talking about. You have like here, it's much nicer to read. Okay, if you want to read what are the changes have been done in two different versions, you can open them side by side and you can see exactly what has been changed. So that's the thing I like about VS Code. It gives you the flexibility to run your own Git commands, and at the same time is very visual. It gives you all the features what GitHub Desktop does.